about how you mark up the stand. And I know this looks daunting, but please don't worry about it. It's not as scary as it looks. The stand's been covered with a stretch velvet body for filming purposes. Normally you'd work with your calico coloured stand and black tape, a 1/4 inch, 0.6 mil, India tape is what it's actually technically called. And when you start taping, you start with the centre front. It's extremely important to put all these they're construction lines on, because they will help you later on to actually do the modelling. So take the time to do it and do it well. Lots of pins without the heads this time. Start the centre front and pin it at the base of the neck. Follow the centre front seam on the stand, so it's quite easy because you're just following literally what's on the body of the stand. Take it down through the centre bust to the waist, through the bottom part of the stand to the end of the stand. And then you're going to come to the shoulder, and you want a long enough piece of tape to run from the centre of the shoulder over the whole of the front bust to the end of the stand and right down the centre back. Pin down the front and put pins in probably about 5 centimetres, 2 inches apart, all the way through the bust, under the bust, down to the waist and down to the end of the stand. The next vertical is the underarm. Start literally in the middle. Again, you will have a seam to follow, straight down to the waist, over the hip, down to the end of the stand. Come back up to the middle of the shoulder, and you will have this side of the long length of tape all the way through, over the bottom and down to the end of the stand. The next one is the centre back. Exactly the same principle. You line it up over the seam on your stand, pin it down all the way through to the bottom of the stand, and then you're going to have another long piece of ribbon to do the same again, from middle of the shoulder right through the waist, over the bottom to the end of the stand, round to the side seam and repeat the side seam line right through over the hip to the end of the stand. Finish pinning this ribbon, which is the other front, it's your left front, over the bust, through the waist and down to the end of the stand, and you're back to the first one that you started with, and we will then tackle the neck and then the cross pieces. So when I'm starting with the base, the neck ribbon, so pin that round the neck of your stand all the way round, and actually I started this at the centre back when I did it, and you're pinning it to the base seam line of the stand itself, and that's your neckline demarcation. And then you're going to tape out your shoulders, start at the inside neck edge and come straight down to the outside point of the armhole. Do the same the other side. So again, it's inside neck edge out to the far edge, and then tape your armholes. Start at the top, work round the shape of the armhole and back up to the other side, and repeat it for this side of the stand. And finally we come to the horizontals. This is the across bust line, and you need to place that about 7.5 centimetres from the centre base of neck, which is 3 inches. And then, having fixed the one in the centre, fix the pin in the centre, take your ribbon across to this side of the armhole and secure it, and do the same the other side. The bust horizontal, you can find that by placing a tape measure around the stand itself and give yourself some pins in there that you can then use to line up the horizontal ribbon round there and start. I started actually at the centre back when I did this one, and you just follow it round all the way through, pinning securely everywhere you think you need a pin, right across the front, over that side, across the side seam and back to the centre back. The higher line on the centre back is called the across back line, and that is 15 centimetres from the base of the back of the neck, or 6 inches. The next horizontal you put in is the waist, and there'll be a seam, the waist of the stand, that you can follow, and if there isn't a seam, it's a very obvious waistline. So you just put your ribbon or tape all the way around there and fasten it at the centre back. And the final one at the hip, on here it is 20 centimetres or 8 inches from the waist down. And when I started to tape this up, I actually put a measure down, put a pin in before I even put any tape on. Measure down, put a pin in. So I've got a guide all the way around that I can then put the tape up to and pin it in, and then I go back and check it again so that it is as straight as you can get it. They will move around as you start putting bits of fabric on. You can't get away from that, so you just keep checking that they haven't moved around a vast amount. A little bit doesn't matter, and just straighten them up again. I'm now going to go through the parts of the stand. It's symmetrical, so I'm only going to refer to one half, and it's exactly the same on the other side. This is the neck line, or base of neck. This line represents your centre front and runs all the way to the bottom of the stand. This line is the shoulder line, coming from the neck edge to the outside of the shoulder. And this is the armhole. The line here is the front princess line seam that runs over the bust and out through to the end of the stand. And it's a standard styling seam that's used massively in fashion. Then coming round here, we have a side seam line through the waist out to the end of the stand, and the other side of the princess line seam through the whole body and out to the bottom of the stand, and the centre back. Coming back to the front, this is the across front line. The next horizontal is the bust line that runs all the way around the whole stand, like this. The same with the waist. It runs all the way around the waist. I'll carry on around that way. And last but by no means least, you've got the hip line that runs all the way around the widest part of the stand, back to the centre back.